Good morning, everybody. It's 8 o'clock. It's Wednesday morning, so we're going to have a presentation here at the office of Sam Sod. Very excited. Today, we are talking about you, the realtor, and being your own boss, how to run your own business. I'm very excited about this presentation today. I've given it many, many times up in Immokalee to the small business coalition up there, helping people form businesses. And I realized that realtors are small business owners. You are running your own business, you are an independent contractor, and you need to know how to do it. So I put this presentation together for realtors, and I'm very excited about it. So, as always, my name is Sam Sod, and I am an attorney here in Southwest Florida. And because I am an attorney, we're going to start off this morning with a disclaimer. It says that I'm giving you advice, but it is not legal advice, and we do not have an attorney-client relationship. As many of you know from previous presentations, I serve on the committees that draft the contracts that you use, heavily involved in the realtor community, including RPAC. And my office focuses on small business owners, realtors, entrepreneurs, buyers, sellers, property managers, anybody involved in the real estate transaction process. And I'm excited today to do this presentation because I am also a small business owner. The law offices of Sam J. Sod III are a small business. We have, four other attorneys and support staff and rent and everything else that you're going to be involved in or already are involved in if you're running your business. Another biz, of course, that I have is my title company, where we offer the best service in Southwest Florida for real estate transactions, as well as a number of other advanced features to protect your customers. Today, we are going to talk about choosing a business entity, some issues as a business owner, and dive into the specifics of the realtor business. We're going to talk about choosing a business entity. We're going to talk about inside and outside liability, some of the formalities, control, transferability. And I'm just going to dive right into some of these issues up front, and then so you have some framework for what I'm talking about as we go through the presentation. Liability is a big deal. Getting sued, protecting yourself if you get sued, not getting sued. These are important things. And you got to think about your liability in two ways. You're a real estate agent, but you are also a business, and your job is to sell real estate. Your business is to collect commissions and pay your expenses and do all the things that a business would do to run operations. You may have an assistant, you may have employees, you may have a team, and you have to think about all of how these things are put together, how you control them, how you move through the process every day. One of the big issues is inside liability. This is liability inside the business for business activities. If you get sued for your activities as a realtor, that's inside liability, and you don't want your house, your family assets, your personal possessions to be exposed if you are sued as a realtor for your realtor business. This is inside liability, inside the business. And so wrapping yourself in the corporate form with an LLC or a company or a professional association is going to be an important consideration for you. The other thing to think about is outside liability. You are a human. You do things. You interact with other people. You may get in a car accident. You may accidentally trip somebody in the grocery store. Who knows what could happen? You may have an accident of any kind in any place, and you may be at fault, and you may get sued. And if you get sued for a personal injury type situation, like let's think of the car accident as the typical situation, and it's not related to your realtor business, that's outside liability. And if you have pending commissions in your realtor business, you don't want those things to be subject to judgments. So you put those in an LLC or a professional association, which is a form of corporation that we're going to talk about today. And then when something happens to you on the outside, the judgment creditor who is suing you, for the car accident can't get to your business assets. That's outside liability. And we want to separate those two things as much as possible with the corporate form. And that's what we're going to talk about a lot today. Formalities are a big deal in the corporation. We're going to talk about saving your records and protecting yourself and having the right paperwork and the right records is going to be a huge part of your corporate structure. And then, of course, control who makes decisions. You are professionals. You have professional responsibilities. You cannot give up certain decision-making powers. And so we'll talk about who is controlling the company and how control works. And then, of course, transferability. Wouldn't it be nice if you could retire someday? Wouldn't it be nice if you were one of the biggest, most successful teams in all of Florida and some big real estate corporation wanted to buy you? Wouldn't that be great? So we'll talk about how to make those things happen as well. There are a number of types of entities that you can pick from and how to structure yourself to protect that inside liability from the outside liability and vice versa. Of course, the first option is a sole proprietorship. That is no corporate form. You're going to find by the end of today's presentation that that is not your best option unless you are a very small, once in a while, real transactional realtor and you do not, or you do have exceptional E&O coverage from your broker. The big brokerages, big broker, real estate agents, I should say, not brokers. Let's be very careful. We're talking about you as a realtor, not your brokerage. The big realtors with the teams, they might want more of a professional association, which is a form of corporation for professionals, and we'll talk about that. Limited liability company or professional limited liability company. This is another form of entity that you can use. Very easy to set up, very simple to operate for any type of realty business that you want to have going. And then whether you want to make an S election, which is a federal tax designation, is going to be a big deal for your taxation. And then, of course, we'll talk a little bit about general partnerships for those of you that want to have teams and or teams that want to merge with other teams, things like that. You're going to want to use a general partnership form for that. So let's dive into these entities and talk about them. Start off with the sole proprietorship. Again, this is no entity, no corporate form. This is you out there being a realtor, doing your thing, selling houses, which is perfectly fine. And I can see from the participants, many of you that I know do exactly that, and you do really well at it. You don't really have a management structure. Maybe you have an employee, an assistant, a teammate or something, but you're not incorporated. You don't have any formalities. You pay all the taxes without any deferral except for business expenses. And if you wanted to have the law office of Sam J. Saad III instead of the company name, which my company name is just Sam J. Saad III, PA. If you wanted a fictitious name for you, you would do a fictitious business name filing, and that'd be great. You can market yourself in your special name, and it's just you. There's not paperwork except for your brokerage requirements and your licensure requirements. But you don't have an operating agreement, you don't have bylaws, and you just employ people, you pay them. You will have to get all the insurances, the payroll taxes, everything will be in your own name. But it's a fairly simple way to do it, but you have unlimited liability. If you screw up and you make $1 million mistake, you get in a car accident, you do $1 million worth of damage, and you get sued for $1 million, you're going to pay it, or you're going to go into bankruptcy and you're not going to have any asset protection for your businesses. That's not really the best way to go. Most people, most realtors are going to want to have some form of corporation wrapped around them. So let's talk about companies generally. A company, whether it's an LLC or a professional association, is a distinct and separate legal entity. It exists separately under the law, apart from the owners, from the individuals, from the realtor. And it is created by filing with the state. It exists only on paper. It can go beyond death. It removes personal liability for debts and liabilities of the company. But you must file articles of organization for an LLC, articles of incorporation for a PA. You have to have governing documents that are drafted. That's an LLC operating agreement or bylaws and operating procedures for the company. Um, it's a formal structure. That's very, very important to have that formal structure put in place because the company only exists on paper. If you don't have paper, you don't have a company. It's a simple way to think of it. One thing that you really get to deal with companies is the alter ego and the piercing of the corporate veil. This is a very big deal for asset protection purposes. It is really the reason that you are going to incorporate is that alter ego corporate veil protection that you get from the company. So let me talk a little bit about the alter ego. So what you never want to have happen, ever, ever, never, ever, rarely ever do I say never, but you never want to pierce the corporate veil by having the company be deemed to be an alter ego of you. What does all that mean in simple language? It means that the company is a separate legal entity. It has to operate on its own, even though it's you. You, Sam Sod, are out there selling real estate, and the company name is Sam Sod, PA, and everybody knows Sam Sod. You are operating in the corporate form. So you're going to use contracts. You're going to use formal documents to protect yourself in your business dealings. And most importantly, you are not going to commingle your financial records. And we'll talk about this more later, but I want to bring it up now. It's going to be things like a separate bank account for your business, a separate checking account for your business, a separate credit card for your business, insurance for your business, all these things that are in the business name. If you rent space, the lease is in the business name, and you don't mix the funds. So you're going to have a personal bank account, you're going to have a business bank account, you're going to have personal checking, you're going to have business checking, and you're going to transfer money between them. I have two little sisters and a wife and a daughter, so I hear about things like nail appointments a lot. And if you get the nails done, that goes on the personal side because that is not a business expense as much as we want to be beautiful for our business, for example, or a haircut. I see these things and I look at these books and I'm like, ooh, these are not business expenses. Let's not be the alter ego of the company and run the risk of a corporate veil piercing should you get into trouble. Now, there are a subset of corporations called professional associations. On the screen, it says professional corporations, and actually in Florida, they are professional associations. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that in a second. But the number one thing that I want to bring up today for everything is this: maintain your records. Dear Lord, how important is it? I cannot emphasize it enough that you maintain your records. Keep your emails, keep your texts, do formal minutes. When you have meetings, keep your notes. I know a lot of us like to use AI note takers now, which I'm using one right now. And it is just absolutely fantastic when you have contemporaneous, I'm going to say this word again later, contemporaneous records will save you. Old records will not save you. So let's talk about professional corporations for a second. Professional versus regular entities. Realtors are professionals. You are a professional, you are trained, you are licensed. You guys are awesome, by the way. And you are allowed to be a professional association or a professional limited liability company under Florida statutes. Actually, under the Realtor statutes, Chapter 475, you are not allowed to be a corporation. You are only allowed to be a professional association, an LLC, or a professional LLC. So what is this professional designation? What does it mean? Well, under section 62107, you are personally liable for your own professional, wrongful, and negligent conduct or the conduct of someone that you supervise. So, as a lawyer, as a doctor, as a realtor, we cannot get out of professional liability. If you screw up, you are liable for your work, but you can limit that liability in some ways by wrapping yourself in the corporate form and giving some asset protection to your personal assets. What is a professional association? It is one or more individuals, professionals, corporations, or group of professional limited liability companies that come together as a for profit under Chapter 607 for rendering the same and specific professional service. So what does this mean? If you want to join with other realtors to form a team and you're going to form a corporation, you're going to be a professional association. Now, a professional association has a lot of structure to it. A lot of structure to it. You're going to file articles of incorporation with the state. You're going to have bylaws that you follow for meetings. Even if it's just you, I recommend having these documents in a corporate book. That's where you keep your minutes and your records. That's where you're going to put your binders for your insurance. That corporate book, whether it's online or otherwise, is the company. That file, those papers, that is the company. That is the professional association. You want to keep those records together. Now, I am a professional association. I was an LLC at first, which was wrong for a lawyer, but it is not wrong for a realtor. When I was a young lawyer and didn't know better, and professional associations are better, I think, for a larger kind of team structure. For most of you that are going to be individuals, a simple professional LLC or LLC is going to be much better, much simpler. An LLC is really a hybrid between the much more formal corporation and a partnership or a sole proprietorship. You get pass-through tax treatment in an LLC. You don't get the double taxation of a corporation where the company pays income tax and then you, the shareholder, pay income tax. In a pass-through entity like a PLLC or an LLC, you don't have double taxation. You, the individual, pay all the taxes. I mean, there's no way out of taxes. I mean, you can reduce them, but we are wage earners. You as a realtor, me as a lawyer, we are wage earners. We don't get special Trump tax cut treatments, the 20%. We just pay our taxes. So, but you can reduce the taxes by being an LLC or a PLLC and having passed through treatment. The really nice thing about an LLC is you don't need a president of the company. You just have a manager. The manager of the LLC or the PLLC runs the company. That's going to be you, the realtor, because you don't want to have another person be your boss. And you can employ your teammates, you can employ your helpers, your assistants, and you get the alter ego protection. You don't have to worry about the formalities, but you do get the alter ego protection. But each member of the LLC, if you have a partner, a teammate, can bind the LLC. So you're going to want an operating agreement, a written operating agreement that says how the LLC operates and who's responsible for what. Even if you're a single member LLC and it's just you doing your business, Do a simple operating agreement because your bank is going to want to see one, your insurer is going to want to see one, your broker may want you to have one, and they're very easy to create. I can create them for you, or you can probably just do a simple one and now in like ChatGPT. That's a very powerful tool, by the way, ChatGPT and some of these other ones. I strongly recommend that you start there and then come to me and I will help you refine. So let's talk taxes for a minute. Let's talk taxes. So if you file a entity tax return, you're either going to be a C corporation or you're going to make an election to be an S corporation with the IRS. This is very important. You want to make that S election in most cases to avoid double taxation. Now, an S corporation is in federal tax designation. So if you go on the state of Florida's Secretary of State website and you look for S corporations, you're not going to find them. They have corporations, they have LLCs, professional associations, professional limited liability companies, and other entities. But there won't be an S corporation because as a federal tax designation for your company that it gives it pass-through taxation, which means your company will not pay taxes, you will pay all the taxes. And now you'll see on the screen there are some other issues that you need to worry about. Not so much applicable to realtors because we are typically not 100 realtors in an S corporation. We're usually U.S. citizens, although if you are not, you cannot be an S corporation, and you really don't have multiple classes of stock in a small business like a realtor business. Was there a question? No. Okay. So let's talk about the name of your new company. If you're going to have a new company, it's going to be a PLLC or an LLC or a professional association. What is the name of your new company? Well, you don't have many choices. Department of Business and Professional Regulation, DBPR, and the FREC, the Florida Real Estate Commission, have specific rules for how you can name your real estate company. And very simply, it must be the name that matches your license, which is typically the name that matches your driver's license. So you'll see some examples. I am Sam J. Saad III, PA. That is my company name. I do business as with a fictitious name filing with the state as the law office of Sam J. Saad III. But my company name is just my name, Sam J. Saad III, PA, Professional Association. Could also be professional limited liability company. Could also be LLC. That's it. So as I look on the screen here, who am I going to pick on today? Where is Holly? Holly, you are an LLC and you do exactly correct. Holly Trapani LLC. That's it. You don't get to be the greatest Naples real estate company of all time, LLC. Just your name followed by your designation. Before I switch over to partnerships, does everybody understand companies, LLCs versus professional associations? Any questions about those? Okay, seeing none, let's keep moving. Let's talk for 1 minute about general partnerships. I'll get my slide
And
ready. Oh, go
I
ahead.
do I do have a very quick question.
Sure, Amy.
Are you saying that we should do this? I have it I have a business set up, but not not my name. I use
Okay,
it
so
for I use it for my properties that I
well, property
purchase.
management is different than being a realtor. And if you wanted, you'd be Amy Alvarez Betts, PA, or Amy Alvarez Betts, PLLC. If you want to set up a company. But I strongly recommend, as a realtor, and Amy, of course, I know you do a lot of business, you sell a lot of houses. You want the corporate form as a protection to protect your property management work and your other business from your realtor business and your personal assets. I mean, if you've got a car in your own name, you can put that in the business, then you can get deductions. If you've got another car out of the business, you want to protect that from in the business, or if you have other assets. So I strongly recommend that every realtor form themselves into a company of some kind. Um, let's talk about
Yeah,
general partnerships and teams for just one
Sam,
second. This is not the biggest issue. Is there another question?
I got a question, Sam. Mike
Sure,
now.
Mike.
Do you find that there's different levels of income that different partnerships and forms of business work better at?
Yes, that's an absolutely excellent question. I want to thank you for bringing that up. I'm going to back my slides up because I just forgot to mention that. I would not form a PA and be a realtor as a professional association unless I made an election to be an S corporation. I would not, and if I'm a limited liability company, a PLLC or an LLC, I can also make an election to be an S corporation as an LLC. And I would not bother to do that and do the extra filing and paperwork for a corporation unless I was making around 110, 120,000 a year. Why that magic number? Because you are going to pay payroll taxes, and which is the highest tax form of taxation that we pay in this country as wage earners is our 15.2% in payroll taxes, which as a small business owner, you pay all of that. Your employee only pays half of that because you pay for them and you pay all of yours. So when it makes a lot of sense to make an election to be an S corporation and not have that flow through entity in the same way as an LLC, because you can control your salary. So maybe you're making $250 a year as a realtor, which is an awesome job as a realtor, but you don't want to pay payroll taxes on $250,000 a year because that's 15.2% is a lot of money. That's like $40,000 a year in payroll taxes. So you set your salary at around, at some reasonable number, maybe $60,000, $70,000 a year. And then the rest of that money that you made comes to you as a dividend that you pay 20% taxes on, but you are paying 20%, you're not paying income taxes on it. So there's a lot of back and forth, and I will encourage you to get with your CPA and figure out where your break point is for where you're going to have the most leverage to make that S election. But everybody should at least have the LLC form around them to protect your assets, to protect your personal assets and your business assets from each other. Okay, other questions about that? That was a great question, Michael. Thank you. If you're making more than 100 to 110, you need to be an S corporation. But everybody in the business needs to be at least an LLC. Okay, teams and partnerships. Partnerships are similar to LLCs in that you bring a bunch of people or entities together to form a business, and it's a partnership. There is a Florida Uniform Partnership Act that will govern your operations. You'll have a partnership agreement, and your business, because you would never do this as an individual, your business as a partner would have liability for one of your partner's acts. So be very careful about management and control and having a really strong partnership agreement. And again, partnerships don't pay taxes, the partners do. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on partnerships. If you form a team you want to form a team, reach out to me separately and we'll get into that. So let's talk about being a business owner. Congratulations, you're a business. Now what? That's my subheading. I think that's very funny because there's a lot to go into. We have a lot to talk about here.
Hey,
Um,
Sam.
yes, Kathy.
Hi, good morning. Just a quick question on the partnership. If you are thinking about putting a team together, do you have the legal document prepared that we could go to you for that?
We have
Like a
many
contract, like a
versions
contract.
we have many versions of partnership agreements that we've
Yeah.
done over the years for people, and it's not really like an agreement, or I email you a document and say, here you go, you're a partnership. We need to have a conversation about your plans, the partners, who's going to be in charge of what, and then we put together a document for you called a partnership agreement, and that's super important under the statute to protect your liability.
Thank you. Because, we all think about it, Sam, and we don't know the steps to do it. but a lot of times the collaboration and the camaraderie is a good thing, but we don't
Very
know how to
much so.
structure it.
Oh yeah, teams can be very powerful. You can get better branding, you get market power, you get a brain trust of people to come together and think about how to do things better, but they have liability issues and you got to protect yourself. And one of the ways
Money
you
to talk.
protect yourself is seeing us on the screen now, records. Records, records, records. Save all your records, put them in a fireproof safe, get them online, electronic storage, get offsite backup. You got to save everything. Save your texts, save your paperwork, save your emails, save your notes, put them in files, and protect yourself. Records are the key to survival of your business. They are the business. You are not the business. You are the employee of the business. You are the officer of the corporation. You are the manager of the LLC, but the business is bigger than you. It's the records. Keep them organized. Keep your records organized by matter and by date. So if you double-side a transaction, that's two matters. You got a buyer and a seller. You got your listing agreement, you got your buyer-broker agreement, you got the paperwork for all the contract. That's two matters. That's a buyer and a seller, and the records should be for each one. Because everything you do after you get sued to protect yourself, everything you do after the IRS is knocking at your door to audit you, doesn't count, doesn't help you. They throw it away. It's contemporaneous records will save you. You show that you did the job correctly. You show that you followed the statute correctly. Very, very important. And we talked a little bit about piercing the corporate veil. I mentioned that phrase earlier, an alter ego. Separate your business and your personal finances. Open a dedicated business account and credit card. Do not put business expenses on your personal card. Do not put personal expenses on your business card. This is a really good way to get sued and lose all your liability protections. Put your commissions in the business account, pay your business expenses, take the extra money that you still have, put it in your personal account. That's what you made that month. And maintaining books and records is super important. All of your stuff that you do, and do not commingle those funds. Very, very important. Questions about records and funding and fundage? I'm not sure how to say that exactly. Finances. This is a really important topic that you've got to pay attention to. So, like, for example, your car, if it's a business expense for your car, things like keep a mileage log, keep expenses for the car separate. I laugh about this because we don't all have two cars. I used to have a beater Jeep. That was my weekend car. And then I have my business car for the week, and I kept them separate. Now I had to get rid of the beater car and the Jeep, and so now I just take my business car. I took it out of my business, and I paid taxes, and it's my personal car because you can't have both. You can have two, but not one. So the other thing, the next thing I want to talk about is a written contract. When you do business, you want a written contract. When you sell a piece of real estate, what do you need? A contract. When you engage the photographer, when you engage the website designer, when you engage an employee, when you talk to your attorney, when you talk to your accountant, there should be written contracts that outline your business liabilities. Clarify what you're going to do, what you're not going to do in writing. Have liability provisions, liquidated damages and attorney's fees to protect yourself and the ability to bring a lawsuit. Terms that you need to put into and I'm not talking about your real estate contracts. I'm talking about the contracts for your business. And again, this is with your photographer, your CPA, your lawyer, your rent, your lease. Put these terms for indemnification, who pays for what, limitations, warranties that you might give or receive, intellectual property protections. Think about those photos. How much do you pay on each listing for photos? how much does a set of photos go for these days? Some of you meet themselves and shout it out. How much is a set of photos? $500?
About
300.
500,
$500 for a set of photos these days? So think about
about
that.
500 if you have drone and everything else.
Yeah,
If
so
you have
$500, $1,000, whatever it is, who owns those photos? It's in the contract with the photographer.
They
Who
own
owns
it.
those photos?
They own it.
Tina, you don't want them to own it. You want to own it. You want to reuse them in future marketing. You just sold that $1 million listing. You want to go
Most-
tell all the neighbors you're the best realtor in town. You own those photos. You want to make sure that you own those photos by putting it in your contract with your photography vendor.
Okay.
Amy, you're asking, yes, Amy, you're asking about the DBPR. I'm going to talk about that closer to the end, but you will need to go to DBPR and your broker. No, that's not the first step. The first step is forming the PA, but we'll get into all that. The first step is form the company. Then you got to get your signed on with your broker, and your broker's got to register the company name with DBPR. That's the steps. Okay, insurance. Oh my God, so important that you protect yourself with insurance. Insurance is a great way to show capitalization in your business without having to actually put money in your business. If your company is insured, you don't have to put a bunch of dollars into the company to show capitalization. What is capitalization? That's the business money, the money inside the business that is available should you get sued. Well, you want your insurance to cover that, not your personal assets. But get credit insurance, get bad debt, workers' compensation is required if you have employees. If you're a PA, you want D&O liability coverage for yourself as president of the company. You want liability insurance. Get with an insurance agent that understands commercial liabilities and make sure that you have adequate coverage to protect yourself and your commissions. Human resources, for those of you that are going to be huge team owners and have lots of employees, you're going to have human resource issues. Make sure they are at will employees. You don't want contract employees that can sue you for money when you fire them. Make sure you have NDAs. Non-disclosure agreements and confidentiality agreements are super important to protect your business processes. Have a handbook. If you have so many employees, more than 2 or 3, you should have a handbook. You want them looking professional. You want all these things. You want to make sure that you are professional and organized. And then wage an hour, you got to pay a minimum wage at least. You got to have them as, if they're independent contractors, how does that work? And that's a whole separate class on paying employees. But just be aware of it. Then a termination checklist, get their phone back, get the keys back, change their passwords, those things. So checklists, procedures manuals, employee handbook, these will help you when you start having an employee. I mean, a checklist to me is the most important. I'm a lawyer, I live on my checklist. For everything, I make a checklist. And then the next piece of advice I'll give you is to have good professionals. Have a good lawyer. Call me. I don't charge much. Have a good CPA. Have an investment advisor. For those of you making the big bucks, you're going to have some money. You got to invest it. And then just 2 things to think about for these people that are helping you. Don't call your friends. Don't go to the cheapest guy. Go to the best guy that protects you. It's upfront protection for your business. You spend a little bit of money on protection now. You save a lot of money later when they come for you. Okay. Questions about anything we've covered so far?
This is Kathy He again. Hi.
Hey, Kathy.
You know how you said save text all your records? Sam, we're a texting world now, and everybody
yeah.
in my office says, it's got to be an email, blah, blah,
It
blah.
does.
But you and I know, everybody on this call knows, all we're doing is texting with the world. Is that going to
Right.
be permissible in court someday soon, or?
Absolutely. It's already permissible in court. Text messages are a great way to screw up a contract and a relationship. Email is not much better because we fire off an email on our phone almost as easily as we fire off a text message. But at least email, if you've got it set up correctly, it goes into a system and it's saved. It can be retrieved. It can be printed. You don't have to take screenshots. Your contracts for real estate, both your listing agreement and your sales contracts now prevent text messaging to be used for notice provisions. So, but they exist, and you want to text the friend. You want to send them the information. You want to give them the link to something, and you want to text it to them because it's so easy. That's great. Go ahead, text, but save it. It's a liability protection measure for later. And your phone doesn't care how many text messages you have. Eventually, I guess your phone memory could fill up, but it's a business record. And they're going to have the text messages anyways. When you get sued and you find out they saved all their text messages and then they only produced to the court the bad ones from you, you're going to want the good ones and the bad ones from them. So save your text messages. That's a pain in the butt. I must have 1 million plus text messages on my phone by now from years of texting. But that's the way the world we live in. And by the way, if you get in trouble with the police, they can get your text messages. So you want to have them to protect yourself. Speaking of that, let's talk about how to handle a legal claim.
Hey, Sam.
Number one.
Sam.
Yeah, you have a question? Go ahead.
Yeah, it's about the insurance liability coverage. 2 questions. Is the broker's D&O that covers their business that we work under, is that adequate for D&O? Number one question. Number two.
D&O is protects the officers and directors of the company. I think you're talking about professional liability, and that is probably adequate for 90% of realtors. But if you're a separate legal entity and you're doing a lot of business, I would talk to an insurance agent and just make sure you've got adequate coverage so you don't have any gaps.
So if we have our own umbrella general liability policy in addition to what the broker has, do you think that's adequate?
Probably is. Again, I don't handle a lot of insurance issues. There's a whole subspecialty in the law for insurance contracts outside of title insurance because of the way title insurance is structured versus liability insurance. But I would absolutely get with an insurance agent and cover and discuss your protections in detail. But I would not just rely on the D&O coverage of your brokerage. I would find out what your professional liability coverage covers. Christina is asking how long should we keep paperwork? Christina, 7 years really is the minimum. I believe DBPR requires 7 years. I know for lawyers it's 7 years. Realtors it might be 5, but I would say a minimum of 7 years because your tax records is also 7 years. So at least 7 years of records. Okay, let's talk about a legal claim and then we'll dive into some realtor specific stuff. Because the other thing I'm going to say to you is about these things that I'm talking to you about, a lot of your customers are also small business owners. So if you're getting the pool guy a house or the electrical contractor a house, he's a small business owner. You can talk about that. It's a relatable item. Hey, yeah, I just had to talk to my employee about showing up late for work, and he's going to tell you the 5 stories he had about his employees. The next thing you know, you got a new friend. It's a great way to relate to your customers who are also likely small business owners. Let's talk about how to handle a legal claim. Number one, the first thing you do if you get threatened is to call an attorney. Somebody may just be spouting off and you may have no liability, or you may have really screwed up and you may have a lot of liability. You're going to have insurance, hopefully. So talk to your attorney about tendering information to your insurance carrier because they are going to have requirements for when you must notify them. Usually it's a very short period of time from when you receive notice of a claim to when you have to notify your carrier of the claim so they can respond. So step 1, call an attorney. Step 2, call the insurance company. Step 3, and this is all done like in the same 10-minute period, by the way. Step 3, prepare a chronology of events. What happened? Who did what? When did they do it? In order, prepare a chronology of events on a piece of paper. Identify the evidence and the witnesses. List the documents that you have, the people that saw the incident, the people on the text chain, the people in the email. identify evidence and witnesses, organize and index all your files. Hopefully you have maintained the records properly by matter, so that each buyer and seller and closing has its own matter, so that you know what you're doing from the beginning, so that you can just, here you go, attorney, handle this problem. And then attorney work product, you're not going to want to turn over things that are attorney work product, because those are secrets that you get to keep from the other side in a lawsuit. If you tell your attorney something, that's a secret. They don't tell. And then exercise caution in communicating with the adverse party. Big deal. If someone's threatening to sue you, don't talk to them. Say, I apologize that you're upset with me. I didn't do anything wrong. I'll call my attorney and we'll let them work it out. Don't have a huge back and forth with the adverse party and make a bunch of admissions. And if you're on a Zoom call or a telephone, in these day and age, it's probably being recorded. So be careful what you say. And then lastly, comply with deadlines. So if you get a nasty letter from an attorney and they want a response within 10 days, well, they may not be entitled to a response within 10 days. Just because they ask for it doesn't mean they get it. But there may be a statutory requirement to reply. If you get sued, you have 20 days to respond, or there's a default judgment that can be entered against you. So comply with deadlines, but start off by calling your attorney. Questions about handling a legal claim? I know we all get threatened once in a while. Good. Okay, let's talk about some realtor issues that you need to deal with. You will have special issues as a real estate company that you need to deal with. And the number one thing is, as an independent realtor, you are not a brokerage. Your company is not an independent brokerage. It must work under a brokerage as you, a licensee, would without the corporate form. So you cannot independently accept listings, hold escrow, or operate as a brokerage. You got to you got to work under your broker. You can't work for anybody other than your broker as your employer. You can have a second job, but not in real estate, not as a realtor. And you can be a property manager. And I would not use your sales entity as your property management business. I would have a separate property management business. You can be Sam J. Sod III, PLLC or PA, and I'm a realtor and I collect real estate commissions. But if I'm going to be a property manager, I'm going to go over here and form Naples Property Managers LLC and run the business out of that. And that property management company changes light bulbs, it lets tenants into new properties, it receives complaints and things, but it might collect rent. What it does not do is it does not sign leases. It does not prepare leases, because those are realtor functions, and it does not hold deposits, because you can't hold a deposit if you're a realtor and not a broker. So be very careful. The other thing is commissions. Your brokerage independent contractor agreement should identify your properly licensed company, and your brokerage compensation will go through the broker as always, into your company, and then out to you after you pay your business expenses. So your company should not the check should not be made out to Sam J. Sod III, PA. The check should be made out to ABC Brokerage Company, and then that company will write the check to Sam J. Sod III, PA for your commission, after they take out their splits, of course. And then you pay your bills, you pay your car bill, you pay your insurance, you pay your employees, pay your expenses, pay your marketing. Then you take the rest, you put in your personal bank account, and you go to Disney World. Okay. One more thing to think about: business plan. You got to have a plan. You need a plan to succeed. I know a lot of you personally. I'm in a family of realtors. How many calls, how many appointments to make, how much commission? You got to know what you're doing. You also need your team agreements, your brokerage agreements, your advertising and branding agreements. All of that needs to be laid out in a business plan so that you think about it up front and make sure you're going to be successful. You're going to have a CRM. You're going to want to protect your client data. If you've got cybersecurity and wire fraud procedures for your employees, that is additional protections probably required by your cybersecurity insurance. But these are all things that you need to put into a business plan. And the great thing about AI now is you can start just typing questions into AI, and it will help you write all this stuff into a nice, neat plan that's probably compliant. I'll review it if you'd like. I don't even charge for most of this stuff. But it's a great, great way to organize your thoughts as the business plan. Okay, we're 20 minutes over time. Let's take some questions. Anybody have any questions about forming a business or being your own company?
Sam, a quick question, Marco here.
Hey, Marco.
If we pay ourselves out of the business, does it have to be as a wage, or can it just be as an owner's draw?
It should be both. You
Both.
should take a wage to control your payroll taxes. Set your salary at X, whatever it's going to be based on how much you make a year. Some percentage of that has to be fair. Talk to your CPA about that, but pay yourself a wage. Pay payroll taxes on that wage. So you're 15.2% to the government. So say you make $100,000 a year. So you're going to pay $15,000 to the government. You're going to take home $85,000 as a paycheck. And then with your company, maybe it makes $200,000 a year. So then you're going to have another 100 grand you'll take as dividends and pay your dividend taxes on that, separate from your payroll taxes and separate from your income taxes. So you're going to have both, Marco. You don't want your CPA to set up that number based on your reoccurring income.
Gotcha.
Yep.
And that's the most tax advantageous process then.
That is how I've always been. It's always been explained to me. That's the best, because payroll taxes are the killer tax. That's what Americans pay the most in payroll taxes, more than income taxes.
Thank you.
Yep. Other question.
This is Kathy He again. I'm an S-corp and I have my accountant take care of all that. It's pretty easy, can be inexpensive. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to talk to you about it or refer anybody.
That's great, Kathy. Thank you for that. Yes, it's very easy to do. Just get your CPA to set up the you do all the payroll stuff. I'm losing my mind right now, but set up payroll.
Right.
Pay your payroll taxes through that, and then you can take the rest as dividend income.
It's not that hard. It seems like it's a lot to it, but it's not.
It's not hard. Your CPA can get it set up. If you can use a payroll service and pay like $20 a month, and they'll take care of it for you too if you've got multiple people.
Hey, Sam, it's Guy again.
Yes, Guy. Hey, Guy.
I'm set up as well. But the other thing that is part of this too is applying business expense against your revenue.
Very much so. Absolutely. That's the purpose of it.
In your example, you said you made 200, but if that was your total commission, you're going to apply some expense to that too. So that reduces the amount of
yes. Yeah, I was giving an example of the payroll. That's right. If you make 200, you pay yourself 100, you pay your taxes on the 100 that you made as payroll, but the other 100 will pay expenses. So you won't pay all your taxes on the other 100. Yeah, you'll have your marketing expenses, your professional expenses, all that stuff.
And that's the part that you have to be really diligent on too, is paying attention to every dollar you spend and knowing whether that should be categorized as business or personal.
Absolutely. And again, I said it earlier, the alter ego thing, you don't want to mix business and personal. If you go to the grocery store, whip out the personal card. If you go to the office supply store, business card. I mean, that's kind of how I think about it.
Sam, Christina
Hey,
here.
Christina.
Hi. Good morning. Good morning,
Morning.
everybody. So you think you would know how to do everything after all these years of being in business, but so I am set up. So when you get your payroll, right? Let's just say you pay yourself whatever the X amount is, right? So you pay double Medicare, double Fed, double Social Security because you're paying your employer and your employee, correct?
Right. You pay double Medicare and double Social Security. That's right. That's 15.2%.
Yeah. So And I know it depends on how much they're charging you and at what tax rate you're telling them to hold off on, right? Of the payroll company. And then you say, like, and I'll give an example, paid myself 5,000, had $1,100 in taxes. So,
Yep.
okay. Then if you take a dividend against the company, you're saying you pay a different tax, a separate tax on that at the end of the year.
You pay
I've never
income tax. Well,
taken a dividend.
you pay
I've
your
never
income
taken a dividend.
taxes. You pay your income taxes quarterly as an independent, as a small business owner, and you pay your so your dividends will come out, and you'll pay on your tax. You'll pay those quarterly, not annually.
You
That's
pay those
typically how it works
quarterly,
with
the
the
dividend
IRS.
taxes.
Yeah.
Okay. And what are the
The
taxes?
income tax comes out of your paycheck, like you
Payroll,
said.
correct. Yep.
But the dividend, the extra income you pay, usually you pay that quarterly.
You pay that quarterly. Okay. I've never ever taken a dividend. So, but I was told there were tax breaks by doing that. And that's what you're
Well,
talking about,
any
right?
money that comes out of your business to you over and above your payroll is your hopefully is being categorized as dividend income by your
Right.
CPA.
Right. And is that taxed at 50% less tax? I mean,
Oh, I don't know the tax rates anymore.
okay.
Trump screwed all that up. I used to know all that stuff when I was an
Okay.
aviation tax lawyer 20 years ago.
Okay. I've never understood why people take dividends. I'm still trying to wrap my head around it because I've never taken one, but I know people in real estate that do.
You pay lower tax. Well, you got to remember though, professionals got screwed by the Trump tax bill, kind of a little bit, because we didn't get the 20% income tax that like a manufacturer would have gotten. So
Mhm.
we pay full taxes up to 37%. So it just
And I never
depends on how
understood
much you make.
why you would be taking a dividend because you're not, depending on your age group, you're not attributing to your social security off of that dividend. So why
Correct.
would you not do it in payroll and just, you know,
Well, you
keep
don't
your
want to pay because you don't want to pay Social Security taxes and Medicare taxes if you don't need to. I mean, why would you give the government the money and then have them give it back to you? Just keep it yourself. But
okay.
invest in
All
it and
right.
make more on your investments. So that's the
Thank you.
purpose of limiting payroll. Payroll taxes are the biggest tax that Americans pay that they don't even know about. Because you see on your paycheck, Christina, you see 15.2% because you're paying all of for your own company. But my employees, for example, I have 18 employees, they see 7%, 7 point whatever, 6% on their taxes. They don't realize a lot of them that I'm paying another 7.6 on my side. So it just that's kind of where you stand is where you sit, so to speak.
Thank you.
Other questions about forming your own business and operating your own business today?
Yes. If you plan to become a broker associate, should you wait until you do that first in order to avoid an additional change?
No, you can be Amy Alvarez Betts PA or Amy Alvarez Betts PLLC as a sales associate and then become an associate broker and you just the DBPR updates with your broker won't affect your corporate form. So do not wait to form the corporation. No. Jenny is asking, how do you set up an S corporation and payroll? Where does the LLC come out? That's right. An LLC would not, if you've not made an S election under the IRS tax code, you don't get the protections of the payroll benefit. You don't get the benefits of payroll. So you can be an LLC and make an S election, and then you are an LLC taxed as an S corporation. But you would definitely want to form that right away when you start your real estate practice, even if you become a broker associate, even if you become a broker and you have your own business, it'll just be your business. Use a fictitious name. But Jessica, you said, is there a company to help me set up an S corporation? We would set the company up for you if you wanted us to, Jessica, and then your accountant would make the election on your tax return. It's a check the box thing.
So your office can help me do all of the paperwork to set up the S-corp?
We would set up the company. We would form it with the state's Secretary of State's office, file the paperwork, do the operating agreement, and everything, and then we would give you a CPA that would file your tax return and make the S election for you. It's a form you fill out with the IRS.
And so say, for example, I did that today. Does it qualify for the whole year or only like going forward after today?
Only from the effective date forward. Yeah, so all the income that you earned individually this year up to the formation date, the effective date of the company would be taxed at the individual level. Other questions? All right, it's 9 o'clock. We went over a little bit. Kristen, I do not have a boot camp for brokers yet, but I can probably put something together. Shoot me an email, I'll help you out with that. All right, everybody, thank you so much. I will see you all in a couple of weeks at our next one, and this will be online shortly. Thank you.
You're awesome. Thank
Thank you,
you, Sam.
Sam.
You're
Thank you,
awesome.
You
Sam.
guys are so welcome. Love y'all.